Harvest Moon: The Light of Hope is Natsume's 5th Harvest Moon game since the split with Marvelous. This game is also Natsume's celebration for the series' 20th anniversary in the West, and seems to be a good indicator of where the series is going from here. So now we need to ask, how did Natsume do with this game? Did they learn from their several mistakes and finally create a game that can compete with the mainline Bokujo series, or is this game filled with despair rather than hope? You begin this adventure waking up stranded on an island that was decimated during a major storm. You are informed that the only way to bring the island back to its former glory is to somehow restore the lighthouse on the island, and repair the many rundown buildings in Beacon Town for the inhabitants to come back to. So without so much as questioning any of this, you agree to stay on the island to help. So you may be asking, how do you manage to restore the lighthouse and bring glory back to the land? Well, the answer is obvious: farming. Harvest Moon: Light of Hope's farming mechanics are more reminiscent of Harvest Moon: Seeds of Memories on iOS and Android devices. By that I mean it's just your basic farming. There's no terraforming of the land. Farming in this game is boiled down to simple one-button presses. When you approach a patch of land that can be farmed, you press a button to till it, press it again to plant seeds, press it again to water it, and then fertilize it. This can actually be pretty cool, as you don't have to constantly switch between tools. The downside of this mechanic is that the button for farming is tied to the overall action button. So say if a wayward villager or harvest sprite walks into your farm, the game will instead automatically talk to them. This would happen to me more times than I would like, and it would get rather annoying. That said, the farming in this game is pretty simple to get the hang of, and tool upgrades can make the process more streamlined. There is just one small problem with the overall farming in this game: it's pointless. Outside of growing crops for food, which even then is debatable, there is really little need to actually farm in this game. Outside of farming, mining and fishing returned from previous games is a separate way to make money, and let me tell you, it's not only more optimal to make monies this way, it's probably the only way I could recommend for you to make bank in this game. I would often struggle to see a point of farming when after an afternoon of fishing or a day in the mines, that would yield me better results than an entire season of farming. When I realized that this was the case, I only ever began growing crops for the point of the game's story, or for the occasional villager request. My income in this game soon became reliant on just what I could fish out of the river, or what rare gems I could find deep in the mines. So yes, a video game about farming and raising animals and the like forgets to make the core focus important to the overall game. I dare say, outside of the few plot points where farming is needed, you could probably get by this whole game without even farming on your land, and that is a huge problem. It's really sad because it seems like Natsume put a bit of effort into making the farming a bit more refined this time around. These games have been known for experimenting with where you grow your crops so you can create cool mutations, which sell for more or create better items. That said, I saw no reason to ever venture out and try farming on other lands, outside of completing the encyclopedia. When I realized the only point of growing crops was to fill out the encyclopedia, I realized that Natsume got the entire point of farming in these games wrong. This is a bit of a side tangent, but in Story of Seasons, what I love about farming is seeing my progress grow in front of me. I know that the harvest I'm about to reap will be used to make money to better my farm, to please villagers, or achieve whatever goals the game gave me, not to just fill a book. I get some sort of small pride and joy from those games when it's time to harvest. Now in this game, I feel almost nothing, which is honestly really sad. Now, let's talk about the new gameplay mechanic that was added, and that was rebuilding the decimated Beacon Town after a storm that happened before our arrival. The whole point of rebuilding the town is to try and get the old villagers to move back. When you approach any of the broken buildings, it'll let you know how much material you'll need to repair it. Once it's repaired, they will somehow know and return the next day. This is how you go about unlocking new stores and upgrades for your farm. There are also bridges and other buildings in the mountains and around your farm to repair as well. This will allow for new shortcuts around the mountain, and will give you new options for different ways to farm. For some reason, these buildings are more pricier to fix in some of the more luxurious areas in town. So after everything is fixed, that's pretty much it, the mechanic is done. It just feels like the town repair aspect, which mind you was a major selling point in the marketing, with just one overglorified tutorial process to include in the story. This is a shame too, because rebuilding things in a game is something I love to do a lot. My problems really don't stop there either. The game's plot is really just a copy and paste of the 3DS games. The Harvest Goddess is in trouble, the land is dying, please get the certain items from the missing Harvest Sprites to restore the land, etc. The overall story just feels like an overglorified checklist of things to do. The story issues don't really stop there either. Natsume once again has opted to use the same cast of characters from Skytree Village in this game, along with a sizable cast of characters they've been using in every single game since The Lost Valley. Having played both of those games and understanding the characters' quirks of everyone already, and they weren't really that good to begin with either, makes me extremely disinterested in interacting with the people of Beacon Town. The character writing in these games are just so boring that I honestly have a hard time finding a person to even marry. Now, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with bringing in fan-favorite characters again. I would love to be able to marry Ellie again in a future game, but that's because Story of Seasons has enough diverse and well-written characters across several games that give me enough time to miss certain characters from old games. If Marvelous constantly used the Mineral Town crew for every single game, I would honestly grow tired as I already know everyone's story and tropes. There is enough gap between the games where I can be like, oh hey, I missed you. Not only that, but Story of Seasons manages to keep the feel of a connected world, so when I do see characters again, I feel like they are the same ones from previous games, and not a group of characters that were uprooted and put into an entirely new universe. So yeah, in summary, character interaction to me makes up one half of the experience in these games, so to have them watered down just makes it all forgettable, and makes me not want to invest any of my time into this world. Visually, The Light of Hope is a really odd-looking game. It's not a bad-looking game per se, but it just looks like a giant copy and paste from their previous mobile game. You have 3D models walking on a 2D sprite backdrop, and at times it just looks rather jarring, and the game's animations just come off as lazy. The game's soundtrack is no better either. Through your time playing this game, you will hear the same handful of tracks over and over again. This wouldn't be a problem if they weren't some of the most generic tracks I have ever heard. So, from a presentation standpoint, this game just falls flat on its face. When they announced that their next game would be coming to PC, PS4, and Nintendo Switch, as opposed to the 3DS, I thought as if the game would finally have a bit of effort into the look. Sadly, I was mistaken. I often at times felt that Skytree Village on the 3DS had much more effort into it than this. At the end of the day, Harvest Moon: The Light of Hope isn't a completely bad game, but I wouldn't say it's a good one by any stretch either. While yes, there were times I enjoyed the game, there were more times where I got bored, and the game began to feel more like a chore to play. I honestly would have been a bit nicer on this game if this was Natsume's first attempt. Sadly, it's not, it's their fifth. If this is the direction that they want to take the Harvest Moon name with, I wish them nothing but the best of luck, but I find it hard to recommend this game to anyone, especially at the $29.99 price point, where you can buy a better game for half the price on Steam, or pick up Story of Seasons on the 3DS for that price. I'd like to hope Natsume will try to improve this series, but as it stands now, the Light of Hope they wanted is filled with nothing but despair. And that does it for our review. To see the written review, be sure to check out our website, GamingGamma.com. A link to the review will be provided down in the description below. Also, if you have any comments or questions in regards to the review, please leave them down in the comment section below as well. I'd love to hear from you. Also, if you're just finding me through this review, hey, be sure to subscribe and stick around for a while for future Let's Plays, reviews, commentaries, and more. We'll have a ton of fun here together. And if you're already subscribed, be sure to click on that bell to be notified when I upload next. And as always everyone, thanks for watching.